Hello, welcome back. Today we're here to talk about 2006 Superman Returns. Starting off, as always, with the plot and storyline. What I will say is this one had more of a story than Superman the movie did, for example, but it meandered a lot to me. I don't know, I didn't think that the story was all that interesting.
Yeah, let me say this about this particular story. Like all Superman stories, it's made or broken by the villain. And while the actor of Lex Luthor didn't do a terrible job, although we're not supposed to like him, the plan was just kind of boring, and it was something we'd already seen before.
Yeah.
And so the story was just felt done already.
That's really the biggest thing, and it felt to me like I was watching Superman the movie from 1978, but newer, I should say.
Newer, yeah.
Because it's like everything happened in Superman Returns happened in Superman the movie, but it was just a little bit more intense. Like
Which
Superman,
I
appreciated that for sure. Like Superman in this one, instead of coming to Earth, he was coming back to Earth from being away for 5 years, and now the world had to relearn what it was like to have Superman amongst them. And there was a lot of action scenes similar to Superman the movie, but more intense, where he was saving people from things. Mm-hmm. And then Lex Luthor was back, but instead of wanting to blow up California so he could so his land in Nevada was worth more, whatever he wanted to do in the first one, he now wanted to create a new continent and sell land for expensive on that. So it was like, it just felt very much like the same movie, but just a little bit more intense. And also the love story between Superman and Lois is a little bit more intense.
Yeah, but I didn't like that one bit.
No.
I really didn't like that. It really felt to me like Superman was being a jealous ex-boyfriend who couldn't get over the fact that his ex-girlfriend had moved on. And rightfully so, he had left for 5 years.
Right. Yeah. No, it's true. Because, like, in the first one, it was just that he finally found somebody he thought was attractive. I don't like their love story in the first one either, to be honest with you. But
just like, hey, look, a girl.
Yeah, he's like, a girl, that's cool. And she's like, oh, look, a flying god alien man, that's cool. So that,
which, I mean, to be fair, she had a point.
She had a point.
He was a flying god alien man.
That's true. So that works for Superman the movie. Superman Returns, though, she, like, already has someone she's engaged to and has a kid.
I will also say this. They decided to go a little darker here than they had in the last one, which I didn't necessarily like. The reason that I can go back and watch those early Superman movies is because they're fun.
Yeah, there's
you know, he's going around getting kittens out of trees and fixing bicycles and picking up lakes and dropping. I mean, he was just having a good time. In this movie,
no one was having any fun.
He wasn't having any fun.
No one was having any fun. And I'm going to get to that in my
Except for maybe Lex Luthor. He might have been having some fun.
Yeah. No.
He had like a train set, which was cool.
It was pretty cool, yeah. A little mini train set for himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like the story was there and it was progressing, which I appreciated. It just wasn't progressing in a particularly interesting fashion. And also it was all something that we'd seen years before. A little bit more intense, but I don't necessarily give it credit for that because I didn't need it to be more intense necessarily. So I gave the plot and story a 1.5 out of 5. It's really not very good the more I think about it.
Yeah, I give it a 2 out of 5. I felt like they had something that was happening. And it wasn't like necessarily bad, it was just kind of boring.
Yeah, honestly.
But yeah, I mean, there was a plot, there was a story, so I gave it a 2. 1 for each of those things.
I bet he's
225 pounds, faster than a speeding bullet, draws his power from the sun, invulnerable to anything but kryptonite, and he never lies.
kryptonite.
Radioactive pieces of his homeworld. It's deadly. To him.
Lois, how tall would you say Clark is?
6'3", 6'4".
About 215 pounds.
I liked a lot of the acting and characters in this movie. And by that, I mean, I liked Jimmy Olsen. And I liked Lex Luthor. And I liked Lois Lane's boyfriend. I liked all of the B-roll characters.
That's fair.
And I didn't hate any of the main characters.
No.
I liked Lex Luthor.
Kevin Spacey's really good.
Kevin Spacey did a good job. We're not supposed to call him really good, though. But he did a good job as Lex Luthor in this role. And he was more believable than a lot of the characters. And I will say, as far as Superman goes, I didn't hate his performance. He just wasn't having any fun, and he didn't feel like the main character. That's another thing. I felt like he was in the show a lot, but he didn't do a lot. Like, he didn't feel like the main character. I didn't feel any closer to him than I did any of the other characters.
He didn't really drive the plot a whole lot, to be honest.
No.
Gotta going off that, I think what makes Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor stand out is that he has the most energy. Everybody else, they're not bad. Their line delivery is fine. Everything is good, but
they feel pretty dry.
Everyone feels bored. Everybody feels bored to me. Superman, played by this one and only time by Brandon Routh or however you say his name. Mm-hmm. He's good. He looks a lot like Christopher Reeves.
Kind of.
But he doesn't have nearly as much fun as Christopher Reeves had. Like, Clark Kent has no personality. Superman has no personality. Superman has no motivation when you think about it to do anything. He goes and saves people because that's what Superman does.
Yeah.
In Christopher Reeve's Superman, you got the feeling he cared a lot about humanity. He loved people. He loved saving people. Brendan Routh Superman feels like he's just saving people because that's what he was told to do in his contract. There's nothing. There's no motivation there. There's no personality to him. Even, I don't remember what her name is that plays Lois Lane, and I didn't find her as annoying as I found Margot Kidder in some of the older ones.
But she was less memorable.
She didn't have a personality either. Yeah. No one had a personality. The only ones that kind of stood out were Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor, and I also did like Jimmy Olsen and James Marsden as the new boyfriend, Lois Lane's
fiance.
Yeah. He was good, but everyone else is just so bored. They're not bad, they're just bored. And that to me is also what kind of dries out the rest of the movie, because when you're watching actors perform and they are looking and feeling bored, that affects the way that I watch the movie.
Absolutely. I definitely feel that. And I also felt like Superman was, I think I would use the term one-dimensional.
Yeah.
He just had the one thing. He was like, I'm going to go out and save people. And like, you could see that he was sad. He was sad that Lois Lane got a new fiance because he broke a picture.
Yeah.
And then he stared through her walls at her for a while.
Creeped on her.
Yeah. So, I mean, super sad, but like, he just didn't have, he didn't have any depth.
No.
I didn't understand the Superman at all. And then he decided he was going to save the world. And I will say the scene where he was saving North America, because, Lex Luthor had thrown the crystal into the water and it started growing into the continent. And that continent started to destroy some of North America and the water was going to rise and all this. And the scene where he saved all of the people, I was like, cool, he wants to save the people. But like, he didn't ever have any personal moment where he saved a person. No. And that's one of the things that I really like about other Supermen, is that they go and they save a person and it's very personal and they love the people. This Superman saved the people, but he seemed like he was disconnected from them.
Yeah, which I think was part of the Superman thing, is he is kind of isolated. I think that's part. I've never read a Superman comic. I'm not trying to sound smart here about Superman, but it seems to me like what a lot of people try to do with him is because he's so powerful and mighty, he does feel kind of distant from everybody else. Which, in that way, they did convey that well. But I agree with you. It's not as personal. It's not as fun. It just felt like he was very one-dimensional. Everyone felt one-dimensional, to be honest. But that's why I gave it 2.5 out of 5. I felt like no one was bad, so I didn't dock it anything, but I couldn't add anything to it either because it was all very dry acting and no one was having any fun with it. So I left it right smack in the middle of the 2.5.
Which is honestly what I should have given it. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and change what I had given it to that. I'm going to give it a 2.5 because after a week of thinking about it, that is about what it deserves. So I'm going to give it a 2.5.
Come on, let me hear you say it just once. Come on.
You're insane.
No! No, the other thing. Come on, I know it's just dangling out the tip of your tongue. Let me hear it just once, please.
Superman will never...
Wrong!
When it comes to the action of this film, here's my thing, and I may be a little bit too critical of the action for Superman movies. I'm not a huge fan of the action in any Superman movie because there are stakes kind of for other people involved, but there are no stakes with Superman. You know he's not going to get hurt. You know nothing bad is going to happen to him. He's not going to take a hit and be affected by it at all. and he's fast enough and he's strong enough that he's going to save everybody else anyway. So there's some cool sequences in here, like when he catches the falling plane, that was pretty cool. When he's saving everybody from when the island is starting to grow, there was some cool action stuff going on with that. There was also kind of a fun scene where this dude with a really like teched out machine gun is blasting the heck out of him, and the bullet like crashes in his eye, crumbles and falls. Like, it was kind of a cool concept. But all in all, it's not interesting to watch for me because I know he's gonna not even like remotely even pretend to get hurt at any point, you know?
Yeah. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit with this movie particularly. First of all, I don't have any issues with Superman action because action for me is more than just combat. And so when he is flying around and saving people, I think that that's cool. And I think that that counts. I will say, especially when the island was growing, that scene stood out to me. You know, he like puts out the fire in the gas line and he catches the Daily Planet
Thing.
Daily Planet Squared, which I liked. I enjoyed that. I also liked the scene where he gets shot in the eye and doesn't react. But the scene that stands out to me is when Kevin Spacey stabs him in the back with a kryptonite knife. Mm-hmm. And he breaks it off inside of him and you see him fall into the water. Now, they could have killed him there.
Yeah, honestly, they probably, yeah.
And they chose not to. And I have to question that decision. Because, well, I mean, obviously he needed to fix the island
still
situation.
Save everything, yeah.
But if they had something else happen there, I don't know what they could have done, but if they had somehow Lois Lane figure out how to fix that,
yeah,
then they could have had him die to the kryptonite. And I will also say this. When he picks up the kryptonite island, I didn't like that.
No.
You didn't like that.
I didn't like that at all.
Tom Welling didn't like that because his Superman, if he's even near kryptonite, gets weak knees.
Right.
And heavy arms and spaghetti on his sweater already. But anyway, when he picks that up and he throws it into space, which I don't like that I even had to say that, he also should have died there. There's two places that they should have killed off Superman, and that was both of them. Because it would have fixed your issue of them not having stakes.
Yeah.
Superman can die, and the fact that they didn't kill him there, because think about it this way: you have Lois Lane, right? She writes the article "Why the World Doesn't Need Superman," right? Mm-hmm. And then Superman comes back, and she's like, "Oh, maybe the world does need Superman?" ? But then Superman dies, and she goes, "Actually, the world doesn't need Superman." I don't know. I think that they could have done something with that. I gave the action a 3. There was enough of it, and I liked it enough that I thought it was slightly above average.
I gave it a 2. I thought that it was good. It looked good. I will also say, and I'm going to talk more about this in Cinemax, but his flying looked really good in this film.
Yeah.
He looked really good in this one. So there was some cool shots in it. I, again, just don't find it all that interesting. Yeah, there's something to be said for that Kryptonite Island scene, although when he's getting mercilessly beat up by the cronies, that was a little bit much for me. It's like watching somebody get mugged who was helpless.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't particularly like that scene, but it was.
He took a hard L there.
It did look good. Like, all of it looked good. So I gave it a 2 for looks, but again, just not very interesting.
Cinematically, I had a couple of issues with this movie, and then I also had a couple of things that I really liked. Like Eric already mentioned, every time he flew, I would turn to Eric and I would say, I want to fly.
He did. He did say that every time.
Every single time. Because it looked good, and he looked like he was just in such control, and he like really was just having a good time. The rest of the Superman, and it's been a while since I've seen some of the more recent Superman, so I don't know exactly how they flew. But for me, when Christopher Reeve flew, he looked kind of stiff.
Yeah. Which he probably was because he was on wires.
Right, absolutely. But this particular Superman did not look stiff. He looked like he was relaxed and he just enjoyed flying.
Yeah.
And that was cool. That was great. I really liked that. Something that I really hated, I didn't like his blue eye contacts. Mm. They were way too blue. They didn't look even almost real. They could have maybe given him blue eyes that would have looked real, but they chose not to do that, and I didn't like that one bit. I also didn't love his costume design in this movie. It was a little rubbery. Didn't like that. Some of the things that they chose to do, like him stalking Lois Lane, wasn't a huge fan of that. I will say this, I had a love-hate relationship with his lasers, because the way that lasers would actually work is you wouldn't be able to see them from the side, but the way that we want them to work in movies so that we know that he's shooting lasers is we want to be able to see them from the side.
Kind of important in my opinion.
Yeah, so I didn't love that. So, I mean, all in all, there were enough things in this that I liked it enough to give it 2.5.
Yeah, there weren't a whole lot of issues I had to say. Like I said, love the flying. I agreed that costume design wasn't the best, in my opinion, but it didn't really bother me as much. What really bothered me, like Ben was talking about, was some of his abilities. Like, the lasers really did drive me crazy, because half the time I couldn't tell he's even shooting them. Like, he would stare really intently, and then all of a sudden things would start melting around him, and I didn't even see that there were lasers coming out of his eyes. The other thing that I didn't particularly like is his super hearing. When you could say he was listening to things that were happening around him, it sounded like a robot, and I didn't like that. That kind of drove me crazy a little bit. So, I liked it more than I didn't like it. Not a lot stood out to me. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I think I lean more towards liking it than disliking it, but it's not anything spectacular. Other than his flying, I really did like his flying.
Yeah, I really enjoyed his flying quite well.
Kitty, what did my father used to say to me?
You're losing your hair?
Before that.
Get out.
He said, you can print money, manufacture diamonds, and people...
On an entertainment scale, Superman Returns is not the worst Superman movie by any means that we've had. I might make an argument that it is the most boring one to watch. It's just not... No one's having any fun with it. There's not enough going on that makes it different or stand out in any way. I don't hate it. I wasn't like wanting to turn it off at any point, and I was perfectly fine watching it, but I just, comparatively to even Superman, who I don't particularly find all that entertaining usually anyway, this one may be the one I find the most, the least entertaining to watch.
Yeah, and I can see that as well. I thought that this was pretty boring. And part of that was probably just the tone of the movie. The actors seemed bored.
Yeah.
And maybe if they were having more fun, I would have had more fun. But, I mean, there were some scenes that I was genuinely very entertained. I liked the scene where the guy had his teched-out machine gun.
Yeah.
That was a fun scene. I liked the scene where Superman was getting beat up. I'll say it. I like watching people get mugged. But, no, I had a good time. I mean, there's a lot of scenes that I thought that were very entertaining during this movie. But the majority of it, I was pretty bored. And so I gave it a 2. For those couple of scenes, they earned a couple of points.
I also gave it a 2. It's just not... I don't find it all that fun. It's fine, but it's not all that entertaining to me. When you average all my scores together, I gave it a 2.3 out of 5. So... I believe that's actually the score I gave Superman the movie as well. So they made the same movie again, and I gave it the exact same score. So 2.3. It's watchable. I don't know. I mean, if you're a diehard Superman fan, you've probably seen it. I don't know how you feel about it, but for kind of an outsider watching it, it's boring, but it has its perks.
Sure. I gave it a 2.4, which is lower than I gave the original Superman, which I gave a 2.5 for those of you who have taken notes. But this movie, it wasn't as good as the original, but it was pretty much the same.
Yeah.
They just, I don't know. I didn't have a great time. If you're going to watch a Superman movie, make it the first 4 seasons of Smallville. Which is going to take you a while, but you'll have a good time. Maybe. I don't know. Everybody has an opinion. But tune in next week when we watch another movie.
Yeah, the next movie will be 2007's Ghost Rider with Nicolas Cage, no less. So
Nick Cage deserved an Oscar for that role.
We'll find out soon. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you later.
Bye.